Hello everybody, welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Such.
My name is James.
I feel a fraud with the introduction to today's podcast. I feel a fraud.
Spit it out.
The world revolves around Fantasy Premier League. What time did we record Diff Show?
On Friday?
Yeah.
Can't remember.
It was like 10 or something, because we had a work Christmas do on Friday, right?
Oh, you've missed deadline. You said you would anyway.
I said I would, but I also said in the differential show on Friday morning that I would make my transfers there and then, because I knew I was going to forget later, because we were out at the work Christmas do drinking shots apparently. And so I didn't make my transfers. I did, however, make Kieran Trippier third bench and play Lascelles, which is at least something, rather than leaving Trippier in my team.
Okay.
No, but if I hadn't, I would have got cash for Trippier instead of Lascelles for Trippier. That makes a big difference. At some time, I don't know when, you messaged me to tell me that Haaland was out, possibly.
It was early. It was like 1 o'clock.
Was it that early?
Yeah.
I only saw it around 4-ish, I think, when we'd finished lunch, because we were in, at the irony of ironies, we're in a restaurant with shit reception, so you know you ain't getting no messages or Wi-Fi or anything. And then it was 6:30, 6:45 when we decided, right, we're going to start walking back to the station. And then I realised I'd missed the deadline. And it wasn't even like late, but it felt like I'd missed the deadline. So I missed the deadline on Friday.
What were you going to do?
So I was going to sell. I think I'm down 5 points overall. I'm in my wrong team here. Not that I have two teams. I was going to sell Trippier for Porro. That was a given.
Yeah.
And I was probably going to sell. I probably would have sold Haaland for Dominic Solanke. As two moves.
Thank you for cheering me up this morning.
Yeah, but the Porro points makes the difference, because I would have played. I wouldn't have played Lascelles. I would have played Porro. So Lascelles was 6 points. Porro was 8 or 7 points and 8 or something like that. So there's 1 or 2 points in it. And then I would have played Solanke over Diaby, who came in as auto sub, and that was 4 points. So there's 5 or 6 points. Like, it could have been way worse to miss the deadline from that kind of point of view. I look at it as, yeah, whatever, I'm fine. Lucky I got away with it, really, to be honest with you, because it could have been worse. And despite missing the deadline, my team still beat your wildcard team, so, you know.
Well done.
You know.
Sums up the game, right?
Exactly that, right?
So what's your game week rank? Must be pretty decent.
I can't tell you because they haven't. I suppose I can go live FPL. Is live FPL working? I say that because obviously we know.
Still sit there at the moment.
No, because obviously, my auto subs haven't come in yet.
Oh, I see. And obviously, yeah, look, it's subject to change based on whatever FPL decide to do with the Bournemouth Luton game.
Well, this is it, right? So FPL, my gaming rank is 700k according to live FPL, but I don't know if that's accurate because live FPL hasn't taken into account my auto subs yet, or has it? It's got 67 points, but yeah. So obviously it's a bit of a unknown at the moment. 67 points.
So you're assuming what? Someone's coming in for Solanke, or what happens if Solanke gets no points?
No, I don't own Solanke, do I?
Oh, cool.
So I have Diaby coming in. I've got Diaby coming in for Haaland, and Dubravka coming in for Areola.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah, it's tidy. So 67 points, but I had a clean sweep across the back line, which makes an absolute change. But yeah, Gabriel, Lascelles, Shimikas, and Dubravka. I had Palmer and Watkins. A lot of people might have moved away from Watkins, but when they went to Núñez a couple of weeks ago and maybe haven't gone back.
They'll be back.
So that's hurt for a little bit. And then bits of Foden's assist. That was it, really. Bits and bobs from the rest. But Cole Palmer was the hero of the week, really, with 14 points. And Watkins is 9 points helped. I burnt a transfer because I had 2, but I've still got 2 rolling into this week. So we're all good.
You're going to keep Haaland now, aren't you? Might as well leave it now, mate.
Maybe. I've got 3 players not playing this week, right? So I want a bit of bench depth there. I think I might take a punt on something, you know.
If you remember.
Yeah, no, I'll remember.
This is the key
point. What day's deadline?
Thursday.
Right, okay.
Thursday, 6:30 p.m. is deadline this week, UK time.
I apologise for missing the deadline, but, you know, we were drinking at the work Christmas do. And I think overall, like, yeah, whatever.
Suj, it wouldn't be an FPL season without you missing a deadline.
Nah.
So
I feel like a lot more people are a lot more stressed out by a lot more other stuff than missing the deadline.
Thank you for bringing Christmas cheer to the podcast today. 64.
Why
for
is there
me.
no cheer?
What?
Why is there no cheer?
Well, just thanks for bringing
last
the cheer.
week of work.
Well,
we were recording throughout.
Yeah, exactly.
Paper bag work,
Paper bag work. 64 for me on Wildcard. Quite happy with that. Interestingly, the three most expensive players I've got blanked plus Alvarez. So yeah, clean sweeps at the back. Dubravka, Porro, Colwell was kind of 15th choice for me. On Friday, it was Milos Kerkez Friday morning I was going to go for. And then the Cucurella injury, which we didn't know quite how bad, but the words he's going to see a specialist was enough for me to go, yeah, I can go Levi Colwell here. He's definitely going to play at left back. And I think probably does for the majority of this upcoming period. There may well be some rotation in there, but I think he plays the majority of it. And Cucurella is actually out for a couple of months. I'm not quite sure the status of when Ben Chilwell will be back, but it's not going to be over this Christmas period. Shimikas 7-pointer. Captain Mo, like many this week. Jared Bowen 8. Solanke 6. Watkins 9. The Solanke 6 literally makes no difference to me because if it's voided and he gets no points, I've got Gabriel 6 instead. So literally makes no difference to me unless they decide to tag on the bonus points onto the game, which I think would probably only be something that would happen under the circumstance where the result was confirmed and there was no intention to replay any more of the game. I don't foresee that being the solution. I think the most likely solution here is that they void the game and you don't get the points. Auto subs will go in. Solanke and others will have a double game week some point soon, and the game will be replayed in its entirety.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't.
That's what I suspect will happen.
I wasn't keeping track. I just saw. I checked in at like 4:45, 5 o'clock to the results, and I saw match abandoned. And my initial assumption straight away was like floodlights or some crap like that. Went on to the BBC, had a look around. Right, okay, saw his collapse. I think there was not even any question in my mind about what would happen. I thought if the game's void and abandoned, then it just put a line through it, and sometimes it happens. And it's no different to a cold Wednesday night in Burnley when the snow comes down and the whole game has to be abandoned. What are you going to do in that situation?
Yeah, look, it's been a long time since...
It's sad, but...
Of course, no, it's a long time since we've had a Premier League game abandoned that's played that amount of time.
A minute, understand.
Yeah, like over an hour is a significant period. So under that circumstance, there is a case to say, could they go, right, shake hands on the draw, you all happy with that? And to be honest, maybe both teams would, but I suspect it would be replayed in its entirety. In terms of FPL not making their decision yet on what they're doing with the points, well, they've got to wait on something from the Premier League, haven't they?
Imagine what if they said they're going to play tomorrow?
Well, the other option is, which is quite common in obviously overseas countries, but it's never happened here in the top level, is obviously just to finish the game, go back and play the last half hour or whatever. So
I was thinking even midweek this week, they've got Carabao Cup. That game, Bournemouth-Luton, is not going to be televised. So, but I guess they don't give the fans time to go back to... They need to give the fans time.
I would imagine... Right? I would be surprised. All the fans who went would probably... It would be like your tickets are valid probably for whenever the game's replayed, I should imagine. So, look, FPL can't make a decision till the Premier League make their decision. Obviously, if the Premier League haven't made a decision by Wednesday... then FPL will have to make their own decision. But I imagine, to be honest, by the time this goes out, I wouldn't be surprised if the Premier League have said what's going to happen with the fixture. And I don't suppose you'll get this is the date the game's going to be replayed. If that's the case, it will be the result doesn't stand, the game's going to be replayed whenever. We must give a shout out to the people that looked after Tom Lockyer from the staff at Bournemouth and Luton. I think anyone who's listened to me talk about the Fabrice Mwamba situation in the past when I was there will know how I feel about it. I think there was a particular panic for a lot of people because Tom Lockyer had obviously collapsed at the Championship playoff final as well. I think made it a little bit worse in terms of people's worry and stuff.
It's clearly an ongoing problem that he needs to get addressed.
You know what? There's every chance that he may not play football again, but the most important thing seems to be that he's in a stable condition and recovering. My sympathy goes out to all the Bournemouth and Luton fans who are at the game as well, because that's a terrible experience, to stand there, wait, not have the information, etc. As I said, I went through it in 2012, so if anybody was at the game and wants to reach out about it, please do so.
Cool. Was that all of your wildcard team you've been through then? Anything else to add?
I think so, yeah. I mean, we could look at it in hindsight and say, Alvarez was a big problem for me in terms of keeping him, but I don't regret keeping him with the state Crystal Palace went there.
Why was he a problem to keep?
Well, no, he's a problem now in the sense he's obviously got a blank, and he wasn't a player. I knew I was going there, and I knew he was a player that I didn't particularly want after this week, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Because it looks like Foden and Bernardo are being used in more advanced positions. I think that the points coming where his place in the team might begin to become questionable. We think Kevin De Bruyne has travelled to Saudi Arabia.
It's just become, he's chipped away, but it's now just become assists every other week.
Do you know how many goals he scored this season in the Premier League? I was surprised when I saw
4.
Yeah.
4 goals, 8 assists, 12 returns. But they came all early. And this is the timing of it. I think he's sacrificial for me as well. The reason this week I probably won't move him on is purely because of value. I've got no value in Haaland and I've got no value in Foden. So moving them on and coming back to them is easier.
Hang on, so you've got Haaland, Foden and Alvarez going into this week?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, did you not know that?
I do now.
Exactly. I think Haaland will go to Solanke and I think Foden, I might go to Son for this week and see where we go to. But I do think this week's going to be a bit of a washout in the sense of get your 11 that you can out and don't overthink trying to over-engineer it. Because again, it comes down to who are the main players that you really want this week. Well, you're going to want some Villa, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I've
got triple Villa already.
Yeah, I might
he says with Cash and Diaby.
Well,
so I kind of got triple Villa.
You might be lucky with Cash, I think.
Yeah.
And Yuri Tielemans' fitness might have a little bit of an impact on Diaby. I've spoken for a few weeks about Bailey having a direct impact on Cash and Diaby. Bailey on the bench, they both start. But I would also say for Sheffield United at home, don't be surprised if he does something that's a little bit more offensive, i.e. he could play Cash and Bailey, with obviously Cash at right back in that fixture. He could play Diaby inside of Bailey. Like, I don't think it's so much of a problem for a fixture like that.
Agreed.
And I think if you've got these players like Cash and Diaby, you probably just got to get on with it. For those who are on Leon Bailey, like me, I mean, there's every expectation to think he'll play, and there's no reason for me particularly to move that on. You
can't have confidence that he'll play, but you also can't justify moving on from lack of confidence.
I do have confidence that Bailey will play, actually. Yeah.
Ooh, but then you might have thought he might have started yesterday.
Not
but then Cash has come off early. Does that mean he's rested and feels fresher?
He hobbled through all the end of the first half of the Arsenal game. He didn't travel to the European game on Thursday. He's a player who's got a history of injury issues, so it doesn't surprise me.
But you're confident that he might play?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It could just go either way, where his injury's gotten worse and aggravated it a little bit.
Well, only Ben Mee might have aggravated it yesterday. I'm over sort of 85% confident that Bailey will start in that fixture on Friday night. But
you want a bit of Newcastle?
But Pau Torres might not. That's a one that's now yellow flagged. Unai Emery said after the game yesterday that he had picked up an injury and was hopeful that it was minor. We haven't got any more information than that at the moment. One good news on Villa is because they're playing Friday night, we should get a press conference from Unai Emery on Thursday, which obviously this week, because of the Thursday deadlines, like all the Friday press conferences, you ain't going to get.
Yeah.
So Villa's probably the only one that's probably going to be useful on Thursday. Obviously, those who are playing in the Carabao Cup, there's some information to obviously learn from those fixtures and any interviews that happen before or after those games. But a lot, like Tottenham, for example, Ange will most likely do his press conference Friday. You'll probably get no updates on anything between now and then.
Bissouma ain't playing, I know that much.
Bissouma definitely won't play, and he deserves not to play, which we'll cover in a little bit. Levi Colwell, I saw hobbling during the end of the first half of the Chelsea game, but came back out and finished the game. So even if Torres doesn't make it, I'm not too bad covered. Obviously, if he's out for a significant period, I need to move that on. There's a few things in mind. I've spoken about this idea of sort of going Saka to Richarlison this week and then say Bowen to Palmer next week, which would allow me comfortably money to then go Alvarez to Haaland afterwards. But I do think I'd want Saka, Bowen back at around about the same time when obviously Salah and Son go to AFCON. And so there's more of a thought process at the moment to leave that, and it could even be that I end up rolling going into this particular week. Ollie Watkins will definitely be my captain unless Unai Emery says something that spooks me.
Not tempted with Salah at home?
Absolutely not, or Heung-min Son either. I think Watkins is to stand out by a difference. If you prefer Son or Salah, it's absolutely fine. We know what those players are capable of. But definitely Ollie Watkins for me this week.
I've got triple Newcastle defence away at Luton. I think it could go either way. Like, one goal and that whole thing is wiped out. But if they keep a clean sheet, then my game week is going to be good regardless, I think, with triple defence. And I've got triple Aston Villa and Cash Diaby and Watkins. If I get something out of them, I think those two teams, Villa and Newcastle...
You haven't got any Tottenham, have you?
Not yet. I'm going to buy Sonny, though. Will dominate the success of my game week, regardless.
It's a case to say just go Richarlison at this point, mate.
Well, we can talk about that when we start talking about these games. In fact, shall we?
Go.
Anything else that we need to? Anything else from the weekend?
I think stuff will cover off during the
games. Exactly that. Nottingham Forest 0, Spurs 2.
It was an ugly and horrible game of football, which I give. Did you watch it?
I saw the highlights and bits and pieces. Look, I'm like Matt Turner.
Yeah, he's back in goal.
Vlachodimos and Pliers is coming back.
Yeah,
no
Vlachodimos
time at all.
and Pliers might well be coming back in goal. I mean, the second. I think he's not good on the first goal, and he's laughably bad on the second goal as well.
Yeah.
He looks like a goalkeeper. This might be overly critical. He looks like a nervous goalkeeper, and he did do before he got dropped as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if that changes back again. So don't be steaming into that at 3.9 or whatever price he is at the moment. Obviously, if you got him at the moment, it's not a panic, but it's one to be aware of. I think, yeah, Vlachodimos will go back in goal. If not this week, then I think that's an inevitability at some point. And if Nottingham Forest did decide to change manager, I also think that probably then becomes an inevitability. Forest made the game, and this isn't criticism when I say this, Forest made the game ugly and horrible. They played a 3-5-2 again, which obviously at times looked like a 5-3-2. Long throws all the time from Niakate and stuff as well. Ugly things like you're trying to play with a bit of wow, Suj. We've never edited that into a podcast before. For the benefit of those on the audio, Suj just dropped his coffee all over the laptop. And he's now tripped over the lead. He's going to go and get some tissues. Should I just keep on talking? So played with... Gibbs White and Elanga up front again as they did at Wolves. It was the exact same 11 that played at Wolves, and obviously got a positive result with a point at Molineux. It doesn't surprise too much that they stuck with that system. And I think for the opponent they was playing, knowing that your opportunities are going to come on the counter-attack, they were better off going with this strategy rather than, say, playing a Chris Wood. Nico's got the torch on his camera, so he's definitely doing something to take the piss out of you, mate.
Well, I just spilled fucking coffee.
All right, not my phone as well, blood. Why I'm talking about Tottenham as well.
Yes.
So, look, Forest assets, and they're going to be of absolute zero interest for you going forward in forthcoming weeks. Can't see it at the moment. It's a decent fixture against Bournemouth this week, but with the form they've been showing, I don't think that's not your 1 week punt that you particularly want this week. You got no kitchen towel up here. You only got toilet
not
paper.
Up here, we haven't. Well, my laptop still looks like it's alive.
That's good.
That's something. But yeah, it might need unscrewing and a bit of hair drying. Let's see.
For Tottenham,
caught it. Go on.
Didn't play great, but then very, very pleased with the performance. When I say we didn't play great, I didn't have any problems with our intent or our... And again, mate...
What? Your phone?
Yeah, man.
Wait.
Didn't have any problems with the intent or the way that we tried to play. Just final pass a few times was a little bit of a letdown, and the game become quite stop-starty, which I credit Nottingham Forest for doing that and making it horrible. Very, very pleased with the 3 points. Obviously, there were some scary moments. Not least the disallowed goal, which I don't know why it took a couple of minutes to decide, because I think we all saw the first replay and went, yep, that's offside. It wasn't quite like the one in your game yesterday, which was...
4 minutes.
Yeah, your one was tight yesterday, though. But even still...
It? I thought it was offside when I saw it live.
It was very, very tight.
But then
still
that's I'm bad at knowing when things are onside, offside, when it's close like that.
As I said previously, one of the downsides of obviously the Luis Diaz disallowed goal was the taking so long on decisions now. Because, panic, can't get it wrong. Double check, triple check, great. You're mainly interested in Tottenham assets, aren't you?
For this week, yeah. I mean, as much as Everton are on, 4 wins on the bounce, you still are at home against them.
Before that, sorry, because you did say, obviously, Basuma suspended is a big deal.
4 matches.
Well, it's not 4 matches, is it?
And then some. Thanks you, Nico.
It's going to be about 8 matches.
Why?
Because he's suspended and then he goes to AFCON.
Yeah, but that AFCON was going to happen anyway. So it's not really 8. It's 8 matches without him.
So Højbjerg's probably going to have to play the number 6 role. I do wonder if he's back fit, if in a fixture such as Everton, and might try Giovanni Lo Celso in the role, because he's tidy in terms of his ball retention. And he might try that. Perhaps Sarr's on 4 yellow cards as well now. We can't afford for that to be a suspension as well.
How much Højbjerg got?
3, I think.
Wow, and he hasn't even played any football.
So, obviously, if you're on 3 yellow cards, you need to get booked in both of the next 2 games to have the suspension. The amnesty is after the 19th game. So, for the likes of City and Brentford, that obviously will be a week later. So game week 20 will be their 19th game, and that obviously may apply to Bournemouth and Luton players as well. So Basuma missing is a big hole, and he's not played particularly well since probably the North London derby. Actually, I don't know if he might be carrying his own problem or issue at the moment, but no excuse for the tackle. As soon as we all saw it, it was like, yeah, red card. Knew it straight away.
He didn't make.
No, he didn't.
Contact, but the intent was there, wasn't it? It was over the top of the ball. It was too high.
It's very dangerous. You can't tackle like
even
that.
Like Ben Mees, he didn't make the most contact, but the intent was there.
Well,
unfortunately,
I don't think either Basuma or Ben Mee were trying to do the opponent per se. Like Basuma was desperate because he took a heavy touch of the ball. Then it's bad. And Ben Mee as well, I think, also is a little bit of a lunge. I think he's lunging in to try and win the ball, but he's also very lucky that Leon Bailey's foot wasn't planted because it would have been very dangerous. Porro, clearly the Tottenham asset that you'd want defensively, particularly Destiny Udogie, will also be suspended this week after getting his own 5th yellow.
Is Porro priority this week over Sonny or over one of the attacking ones?
Still, priority depends on your team, right?
Yeah. See, for me, I've got midfield and attackers not playing, so I want to fix my midfield and attackers.
I mean, if that's where your problems are and you're happy with your back 3, then... But I would also say it's almost like an inevitability that you're going to end up there while he stays fit. Yeah. Because he's ridiculous at the moment in terms of his offensive threat.
I do feel like I got away with it.
It was his defensive stuff that actually helped enable him pick up the bonus points in this particular match as well. He played really well. So you will want Porro. So if you think, like, I'm going to end up going there at some point, I think... I've said this a number of times. There's players like him, Trips, Trent, who, like, if you're going for, because of the offensive capability of them, I don't mind if you feel you want to punt that in for a -4, particularly when there's a fixture this week. I know Everton are in incredible form, but a fixture this week that has the possibility for the haul. Emerson Royal will cover at left back. Mickey van der Ven, by the way, we think might make game week 21 as it stands, which would be a note of caution, obviously, for anyone who has gone for Ben Davis, who was excellent, by the way. A lot of the talk, though, will be on which midfielder to get. So Kulusevski is obviously the one who's really hauled. Richarlison scored again. Sonny's blanked, but obviously Sonny has the big explosiveness. And Brennan Johnson should be okay for the game. We've obviously required stitches to a head wound in the first half. Ange said should be all right. I suppose he'll wear a bandage or whatever, protective something for the game on Saturday. It's not a concussion. Even if it was, it would fall outside the 6-day window because it's 8-day gap. So as long as the wound is secure, I would imagine he will play. That means Kulusevski will stay in the 8 position, in which he started the game well. Obviously, after Johnson went off, Skip came on, which is a far more defensive player. Kulusevski moves to the right. There is something interesting in the sense that his big hauls do tend to come away from home. I have no science for why that is, but it's been like that since he arrived. It's not that he can't return at home. He scored against Chelsea, scored against Sheffield United. But the big hauls have tended to come away from home with him. I don't know the reason for it. Can't explain it. Because I think as well, like, even under content and stuff, we were so counter-attacking even in home games. So I don't think it's a case of more space away from home or anything like that. I mean, his creation for Richarlison's first goal was just a perfect cross. And Richarlison scored again. And that's really good for his confidence to actually, 3 goals in 2 games now. Yep. I think then his self-belief of knowing, right, well, if I train well this week, I'm in the team again Saturday, and there's no reason to think that won't be the case. And I think while he's scoring, he stays in that central position. And won't move him while his confidence is up. So he'll stay in that central role. There is the narrative of playing against Everton. And we know what can happen when players play their old teams. I think Richarlison... Really? No, it doesn't always happen. We know that.
Ollie Watkins happened this weekend.
A story there.
Michael Keane happened this weekend. I was thinking there's a...
Michael Keane.
happened this weekend. Like, he turned into prime Beckenbauer this weekend. I don't know, mate. Against his
tell me you didn't watch the game without telling me you didn't watch the game.
Without... well, he's scored and he's had a couple of bits in the highlights that made him look pretty decent.
Prime Michael Keane is as far as I'll go to say.
Yeah. Which is still... Michael Keane at the end of the day. But yeah, I get it. Like, so as a non-attacking Spurs owner, you think Richarlison over Son? I've got like money, no object because I'm selling Haaland.
No, not necessarily. What I'm saying is you don't own.
Yeah, today I own no one. I'm selling Phil Foden.
You've got no value tied up in Son. You know that in 3 games' time you're probably selling some. So, like, Son over Richarlison, like, I still think Son. But factor in that you're going to save a transfer.
£3 million.
And that by potentially going Richarlison at the moment. Son did have a really good chance right early in the game as well. To be honest, Son and Richarlison both had one big chance. Richarlison scored his and Son didn't score his. It's as simple as that, and it might be the other way round at the weekend. Definitely Richarlison over Kulusevski for me. And it's worth noting, although it's obviously limited data in comparison, Richarlison's expected goal involvement numbers, and we know he's not as good a finisher, he's running along a parallel line to Son's now. So there's XGI per 90 is pretty close between Richarlison and Son. So there is a case on that as well to potentially make the saving.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is the value. Like, I'm thinking I'm saving £3 million. If it's a problem further down the line, Son's tied me up with more cash, whereas Richarlison, like, if I needed to bench Richarlison 1 week and kick the problem on, I can do that. I'd feel bad if I had to bench Sonny 1 week or whatever. So I'm not sure yet where I might go with that, but it does free me up a bit of cash. Ola.
I wouldn't go steaming into Richarlison as a captain this week, by the way. That's likely to frustrate you on Darwin Núñez levels. But I think Richarlison is a perfectly reasonable get. I'd went into this week thinking a lot about potentially Saka to Richarlison. And I think probably taking a step back and thinking about it a little bit more, I'm probably better off leaving Saka because it's going to be so popular when obviously Son and Salah go. So I'm probably more likely to leave it. Going Bowen to Richarlison doesn't do a lot for me, but I might consider that as well. Sonny I've obviously got. I think of the two, yeah, sure, Son's the better asset, but it obviously costs you about 3 million more, and factor that into your thinking. Cool.
Okay, the shrewd listeners, James, will understand that we mildly broke there for a minute.
You mean you broke your laptop?
The laptop is working fine.
Miracle of miracles.
If you're on YouTube, you will have seen the kerfuffle of the coffee on the laptop. We're back on it. It's fine. Got to give a massive shout out to Dell because this is the 3rd or 4th time I've spilt shit on this laptop and it's still going strong. So, you
know, a good bloke, is he?
Credit to Michael Dell and Dell Computers because it's still working. Yes, indeed. Let's talk about briefly, obviously, the abandoned game was Bournemouth 1, Luton 1, when it was abandoned just after 60 minutes. Luton, we're happy they went up. You know this little Alfie Doherty, is he going to be one of those problems where we pronounce him unlike Doherty and never pronounce it right?
Alfie
Doughty. Yeah. He's a good player, you know. I think if Luton go down, I think there'll be plenty of Premier League clubs that will be looking at him.
He's also got the benefit, he can obviously play wing back on either side.
Yeah, I think he's a good young player, to be honest. He popped up with an assist here. Obviously, the game's abandoned now, so it's...
Yeah, and look, as I said near the start, like FPL will make their decision based on what obviously the Premier League do, and we'll just accept it for whatever it is, I think. Just a couple of notes on the game. Alex Scott was an unused substitute, which is
back again.
Really good news for Bournemouth because we weren't expecting him to be back so soon. Now, obviously, they've been managing really well with obviously Lewis Cook and Ryan Christie in a deeper role. So Scott, this time they can probably ease him in and not feel like they're rushing it because the rest of the team's playing quite well. Obviously, bear in mind for the likes of Semenyo, who's obviously going to go to AFCON soon. For Luton, obviously, look, whatever happens with Tom Lockyer, it's quite clear he's not going to play football for a long time, even if he does play football again, and that's going to be a real loss to them defensively, unfortunately. Obviously, what happens with the game as well also has an impact on Marvellous Nakamba, because obviously if the game is just avoided and going to be played again another date, then Nakamba will be suspended for Newcastle this weekend.
Oh, wow, okay.
So there's a couple of issues for them defensively going into that game at the weekend. I don't really feel like there's too much point talking about it much more, to be very honest. I mean, Solanke is still gettable, I think, this week for people who aren't on. And obviously, look, if the game is voided, then there's going to be a double game week at some point. Quite clearly, it won't be in the next couple of weeks because of the schedule, but it could be, you know, as early as sort of game week 21, 22. It could be anywhere, right? Neither of them got any cup other than FA Cup, no kind of Carabao Cup commitments, no European commitments. So it's a go anywhere, really.
Cool. Let's talk about Chelsea then. They comfortable home win over Sheffield United.
In the end, yeah.
I mean, first half looked
turgid,
non-existent. May as well just bother turning up for the second half, 45 minutes. Like looking at the XG and chances created and action in the first half versus the second half. Yeah, chalk and cheese. Obviously, Cole Palmer's a standout. As performed, like he's now pretty much first choice, you would say. In the last kind of few months, he's had that rest against Brighton, where he only played 24 minutes.
He had a bit of a knock going into that, didn't he? I think.
But other than that, he's 90 minutes.
Yep.
Goal involvement's great. It's almost like it's a gift now, right? I picked him up at 5'2".
Yeah, it is.
And he's at 5'6". He's performing like a £7-8 million midfielder. Yep. You just kind of leave it be now. Sometimes I look at it in my midfield and I've got Souček and Palmer, and then also Diaby, and I'm like, I've got three midfielders here below 7 million. But Palmer, to me, you may as well put his price out of his mind and just know that you've got Chelsea's penalty-taking, attacking winger or number 10 who's going to have high goal involvement.
Yeah, unlike, say, the Son v Richarlison one,
yep,
where there's still some justification to pay the extra because of Son's explosiveness, I don't see why you would pay for Sterling or Mudryk ahead of
even
Palmer
if you
at the
wanted
moment.
Jackson, but I don't know why you'd pick a forward, to be honest with you. And Kunku just doesn't seem to ever be ready as well.
He was on the bench at least this weekend. I think there was quite a bit of surprise that they didn't use him. I don't know if they were thinking they wanted to be 3-0 up before they used him or something. I don't know. In fairness, there was a tactical tweak in this game which Pochettino utilised at half-time for the second half, which I guess essentially has won the game. Basically swapped Palmer and Sterling's positions. So Palmer played 10 and Sterling played right wing, and he swapped them at half-time, and I think Palmer just felt a little bit freer, where he could go and perhaps see the angles and come in off the flank and get involved and come towards the play rather than perhaps receiving it on the half-turn in spaces. So, yeah, quite agree with you. It's a standout one. Have a little bit of sympathy for Chelsea in the sense that they played 4 centre-backs, basically, because of Reece James' latest injury and obviously Mark Cucurella's injury as well. Malo Gusto's back fit, and I suspect he's one really to keep an eye on because he is sort of 4.1. He might even drop to 4.0. And I suspect he's probably going to have a prolonged period in the team eventually. I always felt, I'd considered him for wildcard, but I always felt because of the opponent, there was no way really they were going to risk him in this fixture. But it might be he sort of comes back in maybe for the Wolves game, subject to how he trains this week. I wouldn't dive in, certainly not. But one to keep an eye on because we know Chelsea's fixtures for a prolonged period are really good.
He's still 4.1, James.
He's still 4.1, but I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to 4.0. during the course this week. In any case, it's still a great enabling price. If he's
but now that he's got some minutes, people are not going to be moving him on, are they?
What do you mean?
Like, in terms of dropping in price, do you think people are going to be moving him on?
Gusto?
Yeah.
I don't suppose anyone's still got him, mate.
4.6%.
He hasn't played since when?
So why would you think that his price is going to drop to 4.0?
Because of just no looking, because I was looking at him because I was thinking wildcarding. He was on the fringes of it. Yeah, exactly that. And the less ownership you've got, the less transfers out generally it will take, right? So he might dip to 4.0. I think that becomes interesting. Again, I wouldn't buy this week. The only offensive one of interest would be Palmer. He is on 4 yellows, it's worth saying, as is obviously Raheem Sterling as well. We don't, of course, yet know the impact of Nkunku and what that's going to have as or when he comes back in the team. And there's no doubt in my mind that he will become a first-choice player for for Chelsea. We're just not quite sure about where. On Sheffield United, just briefly, I don't suppose anyone's diving into them ahead of going to a Villa team that can go top of the league if they beat them on Friday night.
Wow.
Yeah, Villa go
18 games in as well. It's not like fucking when we're top or you're top, which is always seems to be the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season.
Villa go top if they win Friday night. And look,
Lovely.
With Liverpool and Arsenal playing each other this weekend, they might even stay there. They might be top of the league for Christmas, which I do recall. Those who remember the 98-99 season might remember an Aston Villa team under John Gregory getting off to an absolute flyer. I think they finished about 7th in the end. They fell off a cliff from about February onwards.
We'll talk about Villa.
This Villa won't fall off hard.
I agree.
On Sheffield United, the 4-1-4-1 that Chris Wilder's utilising, I would suggest is probably going to stick. George Baldock will put some pressure probably on Jayden Bogle, but I think he probably stays at right back. Max Lowe covered at left back this week for Jack Robinson, who's suspended. Robinson will almost definitely come back in on Friday night. Alston Trusty will go back to left back. Cameron Archer is basically playing as a left winger now. Did have a really good effort in the first half, actually. Oliver McBurney was a bonus, obviously come back from his own suspension. And I think they're beginning to get the better out of Vinicius Souza, giving him that real kind of anchor role responsibility to sit a bit deeper than Hamer and Andre Brooks, who's broken into the team since Wilder returned as well. All I would say is that it's definite for me, Ollie Watkins' captaincy, but I don't think Villa will go beating them like 5s and 6s and shit on Friday night. They'll have the psychological pressure of knowing what the result means if they win that game on Friday night as well. And I just think Chris Wilder is going to set them up in a situation where the fans are a lot more on side, the players are on side, I think, and I don't see them getting obliterated, let's say. I'd be very surprised if Villa didn't win, but I think what I'm saying is they'll show up and make it a competitive football match.
Man City 2, Crystal Palace 2. Some really interesting things from this game. If you look at it from a stats point of view, after I'd seen the highlights, I was interested to see what some of the stats were like. But
you've seen Palace having the higher XG and got blinded, yeah?
Well, it's not even that. It's like 818 passes completed for Manchester City, like 74% possession. Yet 2 big chances, taken both. You're coming away from the Emirates with a 2-2 draw.
The Emirates, careful.
Sorry.
I know it's quiet there.
Etihad.
It's not that quiet.
I am confusing my Middle Eastern airlines from Etihad and Emirates. Sorry. Get that UAE oil money, Arsenal and Man City. Come on. No, but yeah, and the discrepancy between first half and second half, I think, for City, I mean, 14 shots in the first half, but only 5 in the second half.
Yeah, but
what are we reading into this?
Yeah, listen, this is just sloppy from City. It's as simple as that.
But this is not the first time it's sloppy from City.
No,
this season. This is now like repetitive.
They've won 1 of the last 6, and other than the Villa game, they've been ahead in 5 of them.
Wow.
So, and it's 3 consecutive home draws in a row when they've been leading all of them against Liverpool, Tottenham and Crystal Palace. Liverpool, Tottenham, I think you can have forgivable reasoning because of the other 2 teams' quality. Let's not forget, it isn't just Crystal Palace, with respect. It's a broken Crystal Palace with so many injuries. And they've done really well. They went to a 5-4-1. Had Chris Richards in midfield, which eventually moved him into centre-back once Joel Ward went off injured with a hamstring injury. I wouldn't be surprised if they go 5 at the back against Brighton on Thursday as well, as a note. Eze's obviously got minutes really late in the game.
Yep.
So he is, because that game's so important to Palace on Thursday because of the rivalry, air quotes, I wouldn't be surprised if Eze goes back into the team. Mateta is probably going to get a little run up front at 4.9, and people will take note of the fact he's just had a double-digit haul at the Etihad. He's obviously got assists for both goals, and I think he might have ended up with top bonus, I think, Suj, possibly as well. City can have no complaints on the penalty, even to be fair, Guardiola didn't moan. I do think there's probably a pull on Bernardo Silva in the build-up, but yeah, it's a really, really bad challenge from Phil Foden. So it wasn't to assist Matera. He scored the first one, didn't he? Assisted by Jeff Schlupp, made a really good run in behind. But yeah, City were comfortable, and this is what happens in games like this. You can be, I think Arsenal fans will relate to this, probably think about perhaps Nottingham Forest on the opening day. You can be 2-0 up, and if the opposition nicks a goal back, then
suddenly it's squeaky bum time.
Shit can go wrong at the end, right?
Yeah.
And then Palace feel like, well, everything. If you're a Palace player, in your mind, you're thinking, well, this whole strategy's worked to get me to this point with a couple of minutes to go, and we're in the game.
Yep.
you'd have all settled for that pre-game. So look, really good result for Palace. Did you see Roy laughing?
No.
So it kind of looked like he was laughing at Pep, but I don't think he was.
Probably not.
Pep was losing his nut at the penalty decision, and Roy just looks round like the proper old gentleman he is, and he just has a little giggle on himself. For City, I guess the headline here is probably on Haaland. For those who've held so far, Suj, like you.
Accidental.
Well, I think that's hold now. Once you've made that decision to do so this week, it's just one more, and then you've potentially got a game week 19 advantage, haven't you?
Yeah, true. Like if I'm going to Solanke this week, and I've got the choice of selling Alvarez and or Haaland, I think I'd probably actually sell Alvarez because Haaland I definitely want back. Alvarez, it might be time now.
Have you got Watkins?
Yes.
So that's it. I was looking at kind of an Alvarez replacement this week, and the one I'd always earmarked as him. I might go for one game. No, it was Jimenez.
Right.
Only at home this week.
Oh, yeah, that's one thing I want to do later today. Nico, for the social media, because we need to.
You want to?
I want to Raul Jimenez James later, if that's all right.
All right, yeah. I probably deserve it, so yeah, sure.
I don't know if you do. But anyway.
There's not a lot of forwards you'll want to look at this week, bar Watkins, Solanke. I mean, do you want to go into... I was looking at Carlos Vinicius last night because of the Jimenez suspension. It's like... So, I don't think you're going to buy two forwards this week, is my point. So, Solanke, yeah, sure, fine. Get it.
For Alvarez, keep Watkins, and then Haaland's ready to go. Whether I want to go back to Alvarez or not, so be it. The value in Alvarez is there, but Alvarez will probably lose value over the coming weeks and months.
I think for most people, I was going to say most people, it's not true. You probably get a split. A lot of people go back in game week 19 because it's like, oh, sugar. I think there's a lot of us also think, like, Everton away, game week 19, can I wait a week rather than taking a hit, for example? Yeah. Particularly if the intention would be to captain, say, Mo Salah at Burnley. If that's your intention anyway, then I think wait a week. If you want to get him in and captain him at Everton, get it completely. Get him in, obviously. But a lot will wait till game week 20. I think. Interestingly, we need to keep our eye on... Pep dropped a little bit of a nugget about January and says that the Brentford game might be played, but he was waiting on a Premier League announcement. So, eyes and ears on the prize. Let's know it's a possibility. And let's just... I would say at the moment, just keep rolling it sort of 4 weeks in your mind. I suspect some of that waiting might also be dependent on Champions League draw. I think it's today,
Monday, yeah.
And then you obviously find out which week City play. So I personally think 24 or 25 currently for that City-Brentford fixture is more likely. 23 is extremely unlikely because they play each other in that same week. So of all the weeks you could pick, like, why pick that one? So therefore, I think that also probably makes 22 very unlikely. 21 a possibility. So I would roll 4 weeks in your mind because that should be minimum notice to the fans, really, is 4 weeks. But that 21 is obviously spread over a long period, so kind of runs near to the end of the month. So let's keep an eye on here. 20 is out the question now. 21 is the new possibility. Personally, I still think 24, 25 is a little bit more likely for the rearrangement of that particular fixture.
Cool. Let's talk about Newcastle 3, Fulham 0. I think after Newcastle's kind of indifferent form over the past few weeks, they'll be happy to have a pretty dominant performance, and Raul Jimenez obviously
has helped them massively.
Has helped them by, I mean, it was early enough, 20 minutes into the game, that if you're gonna play Newcastle with 10 men, you are highly likely to get fucked because they're so intense and so good. What was he sent off for? Because he didn't land an elbow.
Are you mad?
And he didn't kick him.
Do you not think that's a red card?
I 100% think it's a red card. Okay. But it wasn't like a clear elbow or a high foot or he kicked him.
It's a high bum.
He kind of did all of it.
It's a high bum, mate.
Jump into trying to take... Like on Saturday night, James, Leon Edwards from Birmingham, who is one of our British-English UFC champions, retained his title against Colby Covington.
Did he do it Jimenez?
I do think Raul Jimenez would have given Leon Edwards a tougher fight than Colby Covington did with that level of flying knee, elbow move. But it was like, what were you trying? You trying to take him out? You trying to head the ball? He wasn't.
He's obviously. Had you seen the?
He just gone into it. There was wipe him out.
A number of suspicious-looking elbows at the weekend. There was one in your game, Suj. Soufal was pretty lucky.
Yeah.
In the first half. And I honestly, on a different day, if a referee had taken view of Jamal Lascelles' elbow and sent him off, I don't think VAR is saying, look at that again and cancel it. So it's like a borderline one. It's definitely a movement of Lascelles' arm into Jimenez. Now, that moment has clearly riled him up, I think. And he's gone herring across to close the ball, and he's kind of done this kind of air block tackle thing, which is never going to work. And it's almost like he realises in midair, oh shit, if my foot goes into him here, I'm done. I'm sent off because the ball is long gone. And so then tries to turn his body away from it, I think. But then because he does that, the actual impact was pretty bad, wasn't it?
It's quite harsh.
You're endangering a player. And if you endanger a player, it's actually even worse, the sense that he turns his back on it.
What's going on?
Because there was an old one that we always used to debate about, Joe Cole and his Liverpool debut against Arsenal, where he made a tackle on Laurent Koscielny and he got sent off. And one of the rulings on that was, like, he caught him at kind of shin height. But one of the things they always said about that tackle was particularly bad was, as he made the tackle, he looked away, as in Joe Cole looked away. So he's got no control of what he's doing. Yeah. So from Jimenez's perspective, that makes it even worse. He's not looking at what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he might be trying to stop, but he could have gone into him and pushed him. And he probably don't get sent off because he's saying, all right, I've made a mistake, but in air, I push you over is less dangerous than what actually happened. So, yeah, I mean, it's an idiotic tackle.
Yeah, indeed.
It's not even a tackle, is it? I don't even mind what to call it.
Newcastle's an interesting one. Like, they were a bit more back to the kind of team that we might know a little bit. I'm looking at Jamal Lascelles and seeing Fabian Schär come off thinking, please be injured. Because if Sven Botman's fit again, then fine, because Lascelles won't lose his place and Schär will drop out. Do we know?
Lots of bum notes in this game. Raul Jimenez bum red card, and apparently Fabian Schär's bum injury, because it looked to most of us.
James.
Looked to most of it, it's bum, isn't it? Is it not bum? No.
Glutes.
Is it not bum?
Yeah, bum.
Right, thanks. So it looked like a hamstring job to Schär, and I have to say, I'm not surprised. I'm disappointed for him that he's got injured, but I'm not surprised because he has been an injury-prone player and he's stayed fit for a long time, but they've had a lot of games and he's played all of them. So, glute, I don't know if it is bum. The way he felt himself, it just looked like a hamstring job.
Yeah, I don't know if Luton is the game to risk. It's going to be a tough, big physical game. If he's a doubt,
Well, they've got Carabao Cup game tomorrow night as well.
Oh, so we'll learn a little bit. Yeah.
So it's complicated now, right? Because obviously Dan Burn's back. So what they did at the weekend was obviously Kraft come on for Schär when he got injured, move Livramento back to left back, put Burn in with Lascelles. And that's fine, because Burn can play left-sided centre-back. Not a problem at all. Sven Botman was also back on the bench as well. So
you think Botman might get minutes
you'd think
if he's fit.
Schär's injury, you would think, particularly for Lascelles owners, you'd think, oh, that's okay. But it could be that it becomes Burn and Botman, and Livramento then stays at left-back, once obviously Trippier's back from suspension this week, presumably will play. Trippier's also a little bit of a doubt for that game tomorrow night as well. He should be okay for Saturday, is the word. I think Chris Hope was reporting that this morning, that he'd be checked ahead of tomorrow night. You know what I'm going to say on Burn Botman, two left-footed centre-backs. So it might be that it's good news for Lascelles, but the best four of that probably doesn't include him.
No, it doesn't, but they all keep getting injured.
We were always told at the start of last year that they were quite comfortable using, say, Botman at right-sided centre-back if that was going to be the scenario, if they were without Fabian Schär. So if you're a Lascelles or Livramento owner, do you know what? Chances are you're absolutely fine for this week, and you might even squeak the Nottingham Forest game out as well. Then the fixtures get tougher. I'd be very conscious of what I was doing. Joel Linton is also a hamstring injury.
Yeah.
We think probably minor at this stage, but minor over this period could keep you out of those two good fixtures left in Luton away and Nottingham Forest at home, which means Lewis Miley, who finally got a break, who came on and scored, 8th youngest scorer, I think, in Premier League history, will come back into the team. They'll miss Joel Linton's power. When I watched him against Milan last week, and they're really tired, and it's understandable why, he was the only one, Joel Linton, who felt like it was still with him in terms of that power and purpose that he could provide into the game. That'll be a big miss for them. And Fulham essentially, really, because you'll know I tipped Fulham to go down and win at the weekend. Fulham will let them off the hook, and we'll never really know
No.
might happen. But I also completely get the Newcastle perspective. Nice to have a bit of luck go your way. On Alexander Isak, if you suddenly think, well, Callum Wilson's my striker solution because Alexander Isak suddenly missed out at the weekend. He's going to be assessed for tomorrow night as well. So, who plays Saturday against Luton? Good luck, toss a coin. It won't be for me. On Fulham, I guess Vinicius does play up front.
Yeah.
I think Rodrigo Muniz is basically available, but I would think it's more likely that Vinicius would play at the weekend in that good fixture against Burnley. And it might be one, particularly for those who are intending to wildcard 19 or 20, can afford to take a 1 week gamble on something like that. I think Tom Kearney, as I'd mentioned last week as well, is another enabling one. If you need to come below kind of your Palmer, Bailey level and stuff, Tom Kearney at 4.9, competitive with a few of the Bournemouth assets, I think could be considered for a 1 week punt as well.
Everton have won 4 in a row now, 2-0. They're on 16 points, which would be 26. So they'd be sitting right up alongside Brighton in ninth.
Wouldn't they?
Yeah, which would be a hell of an outcome. But they're kind of comfortably clear of relegation zone now. And yeah, they'll be happy to go to Burnley. I mean, Burnley sitting joint bottom. Is that bottom? Joint bottom. We're talking about bottoms a lot here, James.
Yeah.
With Sheffield United. But yeah, to go there and win 2-0 comfy.
Look, I think Burnley might do some business in the January transfer window, but their problem, unlike sort of Luton and Sheffield United at the moment, I think you can feel assured that they might be short of quality, but they're going to give you a game. Burnley will give you a game in a different way, but they're also definitely going to give you chances.
Yep.
That's how it feels. And there's not enough reliability on the attacking end of things. Nice to see Lyle Foster, obviously, return as a substitute at the weekend, and I imagine he'll be back in the team for that trip to Fulham next week. Hannes Delcroix covered at left back in place of Charlie Taylor, was suspended. He'll obviously come back. Well, I say obviously, he's likely to come back in that fixture at Fulham. They obviously took Delcroix off at half time. He had a bit of a disaster when he came on against my team in game week 4. So they're short of reliable quality, unfortunately. For Everton, it's a really good win, and I really like this performance from them. Because what do we always say about Sean Dyche's team when it's on a winning run?
It won't change it. Same team again. But trot them out.
But he did. He did. He's gone to a back 3, which kind of became a back 5, a 5-4-1 out of possession. And they obviously went into the game with their own players missing, so no Coleman, no Young. So Patterson was always going to play the right back position. Obviously, Jared Brantwaite was suspended. He'll definitely be back in the team at the weekend. Yep. And Vitaly Mikalenko didn't make it either. Again, we think he'll probably be okay for the Tottenham game. So rather than, when I saw the team, I thought, well, they'll play Godfrey at left back there. That's the only solution they've got. They played him at right-sided centre-back, moved James Tarkowski left-sided centre-back, which obviously allowed the protection of Beckenbauer-Keane as the central centre-back, who did take his goal well, admittedly, and actually played fine. The 3 centre-backs largely played fine. In fact, the one real dangerous moment they have actually came from a Tarkowski mistake. Dwight McNeil played left wing-back. It meant a deeper role for Abdoulaye Doucouré, who needs to be checked as well. There's a suspected tight hamstring, which probably means the same as Anthony Gordon. Just rest for a few days and you'll probably be all right. He played a deeper role. Jack Harrison played narrower and closer to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and James Garner had a really interesting position that allowed him to play as a left-sided 8-10 hybrid, but also move into kind of left-sided midfield to protect Dwight McNeil at stages in the game as well. And you know what's really interesting about this run for Everton? These 4 wins in a row. Would have scored 8 goals in that period, conceded none. No Dominic Calvert-Lewin goals.
No,
you wouldn't have thought that, would you?
No, he hasn't completed 90 in any of those games. He's done all right, 60, 57, 84, whatever.
He didn't start at Forest. It's fair to say.
Did he hit the bar? Or he had a save early on. I can't remember when he had the chance that he could have.
Decent header early in the game.
He's still in and about it, and I think sometimes it's not the goals, it's the presence of just knowing he's there is enough to drive him forward. Like, I have, if you say to me, if we're talking next week Monday and they've come to your place and nicked it 1-0, no surprise whatsoever.
No, not particularly.
I think it's going to be a very difficult game for you. If you score early, I think that could be quite different. But if you don't, it's going to be a particularly difficult game, and they'll try and do some damage on the counter against you.
Yeah, and there's no doubt, in terms of, we've seen it on Michael Keane's goal at the weekend, and actually obviously the first goal as well, the utilisation of obviously direct balls towards the penalty area. It was a shame for James Trafford, because actually he made a really good save leading up to that corner. Then, your goalkeeper's got to do better than that. Amadou Onana admittedly gets extremely high, but I need my goalkeeper to be a bit stronger there, I think. So, yeah, they'll cause Tottenham problems on Saturday, no doubt about that at all.
But Spurs, City, Villa, and 3 of the next 4, it's an avoid for Everton for me.
It's going to be when Pickford goes to take a free kick on the halfway line and Tottenham's deepest defender is within 20 yards of him. It's going to be quite interesting on Saturday. That's our Clash of Correspondence this week. By the way, I'm recording with Ricky Saunders and Sean Norton tonight. That'll be available for you tomorrow. I think there is a temptation, because they've kept 4 clean sheets in a row, to go, oh my God, let's steam back into Jordan Pickford. And by the way, how many people do you think went Pickford to Areola when Everton's run was ending? I think Pickford's got about 40 more points than him over the following 8 game weeks or so, since people might have made that switch. It is what it is. Listen, you're going to go and switch that back when Everton are about to go to Tottenham and then play Manchester City at home? I think it's probably not. And therefore, Jared Brantwaite is still the one that would interest me most as a 5th defender going forward. Their fixtures are, and I always say it, tough, and they've done really well over this period. Perhaps when we reflect on it, perhaps Forest away, Burnley away are 2 kind away games. And a depleted Newcastle, and I guess we could say a depleted Chelsea as well. It's not to take anything away from Everton, it's just say maybe that run of 4 fixtures wasn't as bad as it looked on paper, but they've done extraordinarily well. It's safe for me. And they'll just get points. I'm sure they'll have a run where they go like 3 games in a row and lose them, for example. But it'll get points. Exactly what you say. Like, would it be a huge shot if they come to Tottenham and round out a 1-0 on Saturday, for example? No. And I do think they'll probably go that system again at Tottenham. Probably back 5, yeah.
Arsenal 2, Brighton 0. And for all intents and purposes, like, this can be a tricky game, Brighton, in any scenario. But Arsenal didn't win. It wasn't getting over the line. They fucking won this game.
Yeah, they fully deserved to win, mate.
Everything I've seen about it, because obviously I went to West Ham for the first time this season, but everybody, it's like, yeah, there was, I call it a Teta masterclass or whatever, but statistically they just dominated. They played well. They created shitloads of chances. They won on XG. They won on shots. They won on They won on everything. It was just, done and dusted. And I think it was the first time De Zerbi hadn't scored a goal in a game or 45 minutes.
February or March or something.
Yeah, it's been a while. So they got to take
in the Premier League
all that credit. From what I saw, I mean, the player that I've always thought I would like to own and come good for Arsenal, because it's an alternative to Saka, is Odegaard, and he created a number of he looked really bang on it. He had a few shots, created a number of chances, through balls, creativity. He's a beautiful player to watch, and I really want him to become an asset that I can go for, but I don't know if I'll find 8.4 million for him.
You will in Gameweek 21. I think he'll be an extremely popular transfer in Gameweek 21 with that Saka Son money. When you look at the 21 fixtures as well, I think Arsenal got the best fixture in Crystal Palace at home. You've got Chelsea, got Fulham, obviously Man City.
Why are people coming off Saka?
Man City go to Newcastle and Tottenham go to Manchester United.
Why would you come off Saka in 21?
It wouldn't.
Oh, okay.
No, I was talking about maybe moving him this week,
right,
to Richarlison as a begin process to free up the money for Haaland. As I've said, part of my wildcard team was to leave open a strategy that meant selling Saka, Bowen to Richarlison and Palmer. That meant I could go Haaland for Alvarez.
Right.
Now, I think it's probably more likely in terms of the going back to Haaland for me. It's probably more likely that I'll probably come off Mo Salah a game early, I think, in Game Week 20, because I don't want to sell that despite the blank. I have to say, if Arsenal would have had a more difficult fixture this week, I wouldn't have gone Saka on wildcard. But I just know Brighton can be so open and stuff. I didn't want to go into this week without Bukayo Saka. So
agreed.
Certainly not a regret that I've held him, and it won't be a regret that I'd hold him this week. I guess there's a not wanting to look at him in the team away to Liverpool this week. And I also think, actually, to be honest, I'm not sure West Ham the following week is actually a great fixture for him.
Yeah, maybe. Well, we have a bad record against them. That's all I would say.
Yes,
we do have a bad record.
You don't play them like you play my team. We all know that one. But you'll make it.
I feel sorry for you. Everybody raises their game for Spurs, don't they?
No.
Made your lives difficult.
Not everyone.
We played shit against you for half a game. We gave you the chance to go 2 or 3-0 up. Anyway, story for another pod.
It's old news. Yeah, I think, if I move something this week, like there's every chance I'd bench Saka this week. Right. I'm probably going to, there's every chance I'm going to need to play Shimikas as well, so I would rather go to the all-in strategy if possible. But it's not like he can't return at Liverpool, right? I certainly wouldn't advise anyone, particularly to sell Bukayo Saka. His numbers were fine yesterday and stuff in terms of the underlying. Just a little bit unlucky, actually. But for a while, I have thought, I am of the opinion of him now, thinking, I'm not sure when I want to captain him. Like, you could go to 21 and go, right, I'm getting Odegaard, I'm captaining Odegaard. Might be how we feel by the time it comes around. Yeah, I think Odegaard would be really popular. If Martinelli can find some end product over that period, he'll become popular by the time that comes around. You've got to start thinking, haven't you? If you've got Salah and Son and you intend to sell them, then where are you going to go? And I just think that's when the fixtures come round in 21, we'll all look at it and go, oh yeah, shit, it's Arsenal, I think. So it might be that it's early for me, something like Salah to Odegaard to get ahead of that and then get back in Haaland to Alvarez. That probably means me cutting something else money-wise. I mean, I can move Salah to a lot of things to enable me to get back to early in Haaland.
Move Salah to anything.
20. Well, of course you can.
Yeah.
Of course you can. But it needs to be enough money. I don't think Odegaard doesn't quite make it work, but then it'll be Salah down to something and probably Son to Odegaard for me, for example, I think.
You can buy any Brighton. Is it safe to buy any Brighton?
I've booked Sam in and Chris for Clash of Correspondence next week. Be available for you next Thursday to preview West Ham and Brighton on the day that they both play that night. So it's the day you go to Arsenal and Brighton play my team. We'll have that out next Thursday early for you. And one of the big reasons for that is to talk to Sam about Brighton players, because obviously Mitoma and Adingra are going to AFCON. But their run,
and Asia Cup.
Their run is
Mitoma ain't going to no AFCON.
You're right. Mitoma's not going to AFCON. He's going to the Asia Cup. Their run is brilliant for the period of those tournaments. It's really good. So try and get an understanding of if something like Buonanotte could suddenly be a real interesting enabler. What's the chances of Julio Enciso, which would be on no one's radar right now, being back fit for this period and in being quite important and needed? Do we consider someone like Adam Lallana? Suddenly, does João Pedro regularly play wide because of this? Does it mean Ferguson gets more trusted minutes? I want to speak to Sam about that next week. I don't think anyone's going to necessarily dive into Brighton this week. It's the same old problem of who's going to play. Joel Veltman picked up a knee injury during the game as well. It's another potential issue and problem for them. And what's also interesting about Brighton, which I've said a few times recently, after this Palace game, their spacing is nice. It's a week till Tottenham. It's then 5 days till West Ham. Then there's a cup game. Then it's like a week or two for the Gameweek 21 spread and stuff like that. So a lot of the problem with them picking understanding is like De Zerbi's just going to rotate. But he might not over that period. And that's why I think there might be something interesting there. It might even be that thinking ahead, because it's one thing to think about, I can get rid of Salah's son, 21. We can all do that. Getting them back again, 24, 25, might be a bit more difficult. Now, if you can find the right sort of Brighton enabler for a little bit that's really cheap, that sort of thing might well help, actually.
Cool. Let's go into red card territory now. Brentford, Aston Villa, 2 red cards in this game. One right at the end for Boubacar Kamara.
Neil Maupay.
Ben Mee had to go.
Yeah, instead of Kamara.
He had to go.
Neil Maupay and Emi Martinez, I could probably watch all day long, I think, with Benny Hill music, obviously.
Nico, make that. Yeah. They didn't show they didn't show Martinez in the highlights that much, so then I had to go and find on the Sky Sports official highlights.
See him when he grabbed Maupay by the shirt.
They didn't show it
on the floor.
They didn't show it in the Sky Sports highlights. I had to go and find. You could see it briefly.
It's wrong, but it's blinding.
He's a character, Emi Martinez. No doubt about it. Aston Villa. I heard something interesting on the radio where people were talking about, are Aston Villa genuinely in a title race?
Yes, they are.
And someone said something really interesting. They said, okay, statistically or probability-wise, from here on in, when Leicester won the league, 17 games in versus Villa today, who is more likely to go on and win the title?
Oh,
and you'd
Villa.
say this Villa is more likely to go and win the league than that Leicester team.
Yeah, definitely.
And therefore, you have to say that they're in the title race.
You have to remember that everybody wet the bed the Leicester season. Never want to take anything away from them. But that did happen.
Statistically, but Man City are, as it stands right now,
wetting the bed. For Man City standards, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. What I do think is scary about that, though, we may as well talk about it now, is they're still only 5 points behind Arsenal, and that feels like nothing for Man City to claw back. Feels like nothing.
Yeah, but it could start increasing, right?
Yeah, I don't know how many points you have to be ahead of Man City to feel not scared of them coming for you.
No, but you could also look at City, for example. Last year, City's away results weren't great in comparison. So I think we discussed this with Clayton a few weeks ago, that I think City's away points last year was the lowest number for a title-winning team for quite a while, actually. Right. So their away form has been concerning for a long period. Last year, they only dropped 4 points at home. It's already 6.
Right.
There's a long way to go. They've still got likes of Arsenal to go to the AA. City still need to go to St James's. They still need to go to Anfield. They still need to go to White Hart Lane. Like, there's some difficult away games still for City in the second half of next season. So, look, in February, I didn't think City could win the title because of how bad they played at my place.
Yeah, it's true.
They were terrible. That was the start of February.
They can turn it around very quickly.
Exactly.
Let's talk about Villa, because that's what we are talking about. Let's not get distracted with Manchester City. If you looked at it, you'd think, oh, well, Brentford were 1-0 up. They had a man sent off. Villa come back, win 2-1. But they did have chances prior to that, Villa. They're a decent enough team.
But we should caveat by saying there's every chance Brentford would have won if
they'd stayed at
the red card
11.
doesn't happen.
They had a couple of other chances as
far as I'm concerned. They've obviously changed up the team a little bit, Villa. It was the exact 11 that I'd thought it would be at the weekend, which included Cash Diaby, just because the doubts about Tielemans, particularly Leon Bailey as well, and obviously the suspensions to Dean and Douglas Luiz. It's probably best off, rather than talk about the game here, talk about the probabilities for this week, which I think is probably what people want to hear most. So left back, haven't got a clue. Sorry to bullshit anyone. I do not know if Alex Moreno will stay in the team or if Luca Dean will come back in. I would think, my opinion would be, if I had to toss a coin on it, I'd say Moreno. And I'd say Moreno because I think it's another good game for him to get up his fitness playing Sheffield United without so much worry about going that way, right? And Luca Dean's obviously played a lot of football as well. It might just be, okay, give him a break. Am I surprised if Dean comes back in? No. We also don't know how Moreno's body will recover from Sunday to Friday, but it's long enough. It should be all right. I think Moreno playing would increase the possibility of Konsa playing right back, but of course, we've got this Pau Torres potential injury, which I think does mean at the moment that Carlos and Konsa would probably play centre-back if Torres is out. They just move it along, and Matty Cash should play right-back. Now, under that circumstance as well, it's not improbable that neither Moreno or Dean played if Pau Torres was suddenly available, because he could cover at left-back. I think Carlos and Konsa, you should be absolutely fine for this week. Matty Cash, I think if you've just got to play, and it'll be what it'll be. And I would slightly lean on the side of thinking he will play rather than he doesn't. On Diaby, I think that's probably more of relevance on Yuri Tielemans' fitness. Because I think Emery wants to pair Tielemans as kind of this floating 10 that's allowing Bailey to be a little bit more advanced as a winger and do what he does. So I think Diaby playing is possibly quite dependent on Tielemans maybe, because I do think Leon Bailey will start. And I think Luiz will come back in for Kamara, who's obviously suspended. It does mean probably a deeper role for Douglas Luiz. It might have a negative on John McGinn as well. Doesn't mean they can't return against teams like Sheffield United. And in Luiz's case, he'll still be on the corners and the free kicks and pens and stuff.
Yep.
Jacob Ramsey will probably keep his place on the left. Watkins almost certainly will play. It's Friday gap till they play Manchester United on Tuesday evening. So a 4-day turnaround. Villa's turnarounds aren't too bad over this period. So I think cash owners should keep. I'd be looking to move it on after this week, I would say, however. Diaby, It's such a rough one to sell. Like what you've got both, haven't you? What are you thinking?
I'll play him.
Just it is what it is.
Play
It's
him.
not like these guys can't return as substitutes
Play
and
him.
stuff as well.
Play him.
Particularly Diaby.
Yeah. Play him. They started this week. As much as we can debate, why they did or didn't, the fact is the fact. They started this week, which means they could start again. So I'm just going to play him. I'm not going to try and second guess it. I've got other things I can do that are more valuable, I think. Cool. Let's talk about West Ham 3, Wolves 0. Paquetá turning up with a hat-trick of assists.
Do you know what his XA was for the 3 assists?
I have no idea because all three of them were like through balls from around the edge of the centre circle kind of stuff.
And they're all great passes.
Oh, phenomenal.
In different ways.
He was saucy yesterday. You can guess what? Game was on TV.
I was going to mention
Surprise. He's not the first Brazilian to pick up 3 assists in a game. Roberto Firmino has done it previously. However, he did. And I had a cheeky little pint with FPL.
You've been scrolling through Opta's Twitter account or something.
I had a cheeky little pint with FPL fella at half-time, Dan. And guess who he had in his FPL team? He tweeted it earlier. Effective ownership of like 0.0%. Kudus coming in with 2 goals.
That would have been so much more fun if you went, never Guerd.
If only it was. Mohamed Kudus coming in with 2 goals as well. It was a training game. It was as flat a game could be the week before Christmas. Stadium was 80%. Plenty of empty seats.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'd say 80% at best.
Couldn't get out of the shopping centre, no?
No, it's not even that. I just think Wolves the week before, people couldn't be bothered. There was no train strikes, I don't think. But, couldn't be bothered. It was too easy. Like Wolves have done well this season,
Give
right?
up your tickets for people who maybe want to go, just saying.
They beat you at home. They gave City a tough game. They gave United a tough game. They've had some good results, Wolves, this year.
At Molineux.
I didn't see anything
At Molineux.
from them that made me think in any way that they were a good team. There was nothing.
When was the last away win?
Who, Wolves?
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you, James. Don't follow them well enough.
What I'm saying is most of those good results have been in home games.
Sure.
And I'm sure they'll continue to pick up a lot of good results at Molineux. Alvarez XA for the 3 assists, which was 0.
Paquetá.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine Alvarez. That would have been weird. Paquetá's was 0.05.
Wow.
And I don't know if it was obvious to you, but every goal was exactly the same.
Through ball from somewhere in and around the centre circle, cutting the lines, come in. First, Kudus tucks it on his left. Second, on his right. Bowen cuts it on his right. Exactly the same, yeah.
All 3 goals in terms of the build. Obviously, the final pass is different in its execution,
Finish
but a
slightly
clear
different
strategy in terms of exploiting Wolves in that avenue.
Do you know what's interesting is it's the same strategy that we employed against Freiburg on the Thursday night, was balls in behind for Kudus and Bowen to run onto. Clearly, the attacking philosophy is that now.
What's interesting about that is even Bowen's goal is there's a period there where he swapped position with Kudus.
Well, yeah, Alvarez came off. Alvarez came off for Fornals.
Went on the right.
Fornals played left, which meant Paquetá went central with Kudus, and then Bowen went to the right. So you ended up with Paquetá and Kudus being the 2 highest, whereas previously it was Ward-Prowse and Bowen. And yeah, people will read into it that, Bowen went to the right and he scored a goal. Right at the last minute of the first half, when he was playing centrally, he hits the post, and you're talking about the deflection hits the post and goes across the face of the goal centimetres, and it's in the back of the net from central, and you're not having this debate about whether he's scoring from left or right. The only thing I would say with Bowen, and I've said this before about a West Ham striker, like the second half of the first half and the start of the second half, he was huffing, like puffing and puffing, not huffing and puffing because he was upset. Like there was a number of opportunities where normally he'd be ready to run in behind and you'd be like, make the run. He just didn't. And I think it's fatigue. But
yeah,
it looked fatigued.
I also
to me.
think I spoke about this on our Patreon pod Friday. The fact that you had Sunday, big game at Liverpool Wednesday night, and then Manchester United Saturday lunchtime. Bowen plays all of it. Yeah,
he won't not.
So I'm not surprised if he's.
This is the other side of my narrative.
If he's being told as well, control yourself.
Your energy.
Yeah.
Like when Paquetá played the ball through for Kudus for the second goal, I was like, don't touch it, Bowen, because you don't look like you're interested. Let it go through to Kudus. And yet, 75 minutes in, 80 minutes in, he can do nothing and he'll still pop up and score you a goal. That's why, as a fantasy asset, I think Bowen is just the hold and just leave him be. And I think Kudus now has put his hat in the ring. That's not 10 goals he scored for us this season already, which is decent. He's very direct. He's one of those players where sometimes you get players where they're running in on box and you're like, don't shoot because I don't want you to shoot because you're not very good at shooting. He can shoot from wherever he wants. I don't mind. He's good. I think Kudus is interesting now at 6.7. I think there'll be a few people that might go for him. But AFCON.
Yeah, to be honest, I just opened my mouth and said,
I know. It's like, what can we do for Ghana to be rubbish in the AFCON?
The reality is with Kudus, if you're sitting there, I mean, if you're looking there this week and you're going, Richarlison, Palmer, Kudus. Okay, like Palmer's on 4 yellows. Like, I get it. There could be a suspension coming. But I don't know how you pick Kudus over like those other...
I don't think you can.
Put it this way. I don't know how you pick Kudus over Richarlison at this minute. Because of that, West Ham's 3 fixtures are United at home. And I wouldn't be surprised.
I think we'll beat United.
Probably. But then it's Arsenal away. Then it's Brighton at home. Then he goes.
Yeah, it's not great. I don't think we'll do well in the Arsenal game, and the Brighton game will be tough. I think United's the best game of the 3.
He might absolutely do well in those 3 games. And do you know what? If someone specifically is wildcarding in, say, game week 19 particularly, and thinking, I want to get Kudus against Manchester United, crack on. Be my guest, by all means. Like, as ever, play it your way and obviously consider your own circumstances. But I think looking ahead, like, he would be under no consideration for me at this stage. And I also, as a Bowen owner, I wouldn't want to go to the Arsenal game and have Bowen and Kudus.
Yeah, agreed.
Personally.
But
so
the other side of AFCON might be a consideration,
yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Nothing from Wolves interesting at the moment, unfortunately for them.
But you'd even have to factor that in with, and this goes for anyone else coming back from AFCON, you think you've got your eye on, and the Asia Cup. You know, if you're thinking, well, priority is going to be get Salah's son back, well, guess what? Your Kudus is going to take a bit longer, aren't they?
Yeah.
Unless there is a case for some idiots who might have bench boosted in game week 1 to wildcard when they come back.
Just get them
might be an idea. By the way, I'm one of them. I'm not attacking anyone. I'm one of them idiots, right?
Yeah, of course. One of them early wildcards for the second half of the season, you think? Just pull it out, get it done.
Might be for me, yeah. I mean, if I was to land in a position where I've got a lot of problems at that point, say around 25, 26, would probably be 25, and they're both coming back together at the same time, and it's going to work out awkward for me, and I don't need to think ahead about the bench boost and stuff, then yeah, it might be a solution for me. That's not my intention, by the way, but it might be a solution.
Yep. Nothing from Wolves?
No, they played a back 4, which was an interesting call. I think I know why it happened. So they'd obviously been having a lot of success with this kind of back 3 hybrid system. And Ray and Nori getting injured at Fulham was quite a bit of a blow from that perspective, really, because the balance-wise, where it could just kind of seamlessly move into a 4 with him at left midfield or into a back 5 with him at left back was working really nicely, because Toti Gomez is a centre-back rather than a full-back as well. So it was working really nicely. Then I think probably in the 2 home games against Burnley and Forest, they probably weren't themselves recently. And so I think he's thought, I change it, because he would have known as well that you want to give up possession, right? So he's thinking, I'll go a bit more offensive. But the balance of the team wasn't as good. That said, again, to be honest, mitigations, I honestly, personally, think Soufal was pretty lucky. It's certainly another one that if the ref sends him off there's no way VAR is going to him, turn that over, mate. Like, it's an orange, isn't it? It's the sort of one you'd be, I know this Simbin talks generally nonsense, but it's the sort of one you'd go,
probably.
Go and sit down for 10 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think it was a little bit fortunate. That would potentially change the game at that perspective. I imagine that Wolves will go back to a back 3 against Chelsea on Sunday.
Liverpool, Manchester United 0-0.
Do you know what? I've been very critical of this fixture over the years, which has obviously had some explosive high-scoring games in the last couple of years, primarily obviously for Liverpool. I always used to be so critical about this fixture. It always used to get overhyped so much, and invariably, the game's occasion means that it's not as good as you hope it will be. And I guess that's what happened yesterday. But I would like to add and say I don't think it was quite as bad as everybody's been making out. Actually, I thought it was quite interesting from a tactical perspective, trying to watch Klopp decide how to manoeuvre around the fact that Liverpool weren't particularly playing very well and had a brief period as well where they lost control of the game very briefly for 5 minutes or so as well. They wrestled it back, but they also never really looked like scoring. And I think individually and collectively, offensively, they had a bad day. But I don't know how many corners they had in the first 15 minutes or so. So the pressure was on, and it was like United got over that bit, and then the game hit a little bit of a lull period, and United were a lot more comfortable from there. It was just a really bad day at the office for Liverpool, but I also think if they'd have scored, there probably wouldn't be much of a
34
reaction.
shots, James.
Exactly.
One goes in, and you walk away 1-0, and you're 3 points, and you're done.
Like, Onana's made 8 saves. Yeah. Like, none of them are...
Yeah. They only had one big chance. Out of 34 shots, only one of them was what you'd consider a big chance.
I'm not even sure what that was.
Yeah, I don't either. So but I'm just telling you what SofaScore reckons.
Because of that, they posted like an XG of over 2, haven't they? But it didn't...
Volume. It's all based on volume, based on rather than quality.
To be fair, United's chances with Garnacho and Højlund in the second half were as good as anything as Liverpool created in terms of open play. The only real scary moment I think United had was the Trent effort from the edge of the box when he gave Onana the eyes, and it was near post. So I think Onana thought it was going to bend it to the far post. Other than that, never really thought Liverpool would score. And Sud, you will have heard me say this before, and I will say it again. I don't find it comfortable owning Mo Salah. I know what he is. I know he's an amazing goal scorer. As soon as he hits my FPL team, I watch him differently, and I don't enjoy it.
Did you break him, or did I break him?
You broke him.
Okay, I broke him. As long as we don't know
you broke him, I finished him. No, of course not. And to be honest, look, if you still want to captain Mo Salah against Arsenal this week, he might at times of the game find space a little bit easier to come by. I'm sure Zinchenko probably isn't looking forward to playing against him. Last year they dealt with that quite aggressively in the first half by moving Gabriel out there to go aggressive against Salah, but it still left him in 1v1 duels. Yeah. So, look, it's not like I'm sitting here going, oh, Salah's terrible. I'm not saying, I'm just telling you that's how I feel, that I don't particularly enjoy it. When I just watch him differently, and I watch him through a perspective of going, I don't think you're going to do anything for me, rather than sitting there thinking, oh, he's going to kill me in a minute. It's interesting just how that plays on the mind, I think. I do intend to captain him in game week 19. As I said, he'd probably be my sacrifice 20. For Núñez owners... you're another one, you're lucky, because it easily could have been sent off yesterday. He elbows Johnny Evans in the ribs, which is not a red card in itself. Then hacks the ball. And by the way, I don't know why no one's mentioned this, but he hacks the ball away, and it bounces about that far over the bar rather than going in. And then sarcastically applauds the linesman. It's 3 yellow cards there. Yeah. Dalot, I don't have any sympathy, I'm afraid to say, for Dalot's red card. I know most people do. But he gets booked for aggressively waving his arm and then does exactly the same thing again. So I don't have a problem with the fact that Mike Oliver sent him off, actually. I just think, right, it's the old problem, isn't it? Consistency. Because if you're going to do that, Núñez should have gone as well. That would be the point on that. Yep. And it gave everyone something to talk about at the end of the game. Núñez owners, I think you're looking at him as your way back to Haaland. There isn't anywhere to go this week, is my point. Like, if you're sitting there with Solanke, Watkins, Núñez this week, what are you going to do? Sticking with it, ain't you, really?
Yeah, agreed.
There's no point doing anything. I thought Liverpool really missed McAllister. I thought he was going to play Trent in the 6th position, which obviously moved him into midfield later in the game. I was surprised he left Wataru Endo on. Gravenberch possibly got an injury, which will be a big blow going into the Arsenal game. I think Curtis Jones would be the right replacement for that particular player. Dominic Szoboszlai, for the first time since I'd seen him, I thought didn't play well. And I really, really like him as a player. So it's possibly a little bit fatigued there. I thought Tsimikas played really well, actually, at left-back. And defensively, they were largely untroubled themselves. United put on a solid defensive display. I know there's a lot of, well, you Manchester United, you shouldn't go there and play like that. Listen, if they'd have gone there and tried to attack, they would have got annihilated, which is what most people thought. So let's give them credit for the way that they defended. Evans and Varane played particularly well, I thought, at centre-back. I don't, watching that yesterday again, I don't understand how Raphael Varane has not been playing.
Something going on behind the scenes, mate.
Yeah, but he's played now. He picked him on Tuesday against Bayern Munich, and that was before Harry Maguire got injured. I don't understand. Yes, something's obviously happened there, but from a footballing perspective, United are much better with him playing.
Of course,
at centre-back, no doubt about it. Højlund, I thought, was a little bit unlucky with the effort he had towards the end. That this was, when you look at that midfield, none of us thought they were going to do anything in the game, and they didn't particularly, but deserve credit for the work ethic, etc. And I think, to be honest, probably were merit for the draw, because you couldn't look at Liverpool and say they deserve to win it.
Good.
Certainly won't be looking at United FPL assets, and I wouldn't be looking. I wouldn't be looking to add Liverpool at this moment either. I was listening to Who Got the Assist on my way in, and I thought FPL Pricey made a really good point about when selling Salah and Son, that at the moment, because of his positioning, moving Son to Richarlison would make perfect sense if you wanted to do that in Gameweek 21. But moving Salah to Diaz or Jota if he stay fit, it doesn't feel the same, doesn't feel right. No. I think Jota would be one to keep an eye on if he gets himself back fit. Diaz tended to run into trouble when he had moments yesterday.
Cool. That was a wrap of all of the games, James. We've rattled through them and we've been talking plenty long. We can do a couple of questions that we've had in on Twitter, X or whatever it is. But do you want to tell everybody what we've got to look forward to for the rest of the week? Listeners,
yes.
Viewers, whatever
as said, COTC tomorrow, Tottenham versus Everton with Ricky Saunders, Sean Norton, SkyPod Wednesday, our Big Fat Football Quiz of the Year on Thursday, which we're probably going to put out after the deadline, something for you to perhaps listen to or watch after the deadline and before Crystal Palace play Brighton. Friday I'll be streaming Patreon content this week. Q&A today. I'm going to do a stream for patrons tomorrow. Tottenham Wednesday. Gameweek 17 preview Thursday. Friday, money in football on the closure of the Chelsea amortization loophole. There you go.
Yep. Okie dokie. Do you want to answer a couple of these questions that we had in X.com?
Yeah, go for it.
Coke or beer? The better drink with pizza, says
with
Carty.
Pizza?
Yeah.
Would say Coke, actually.
I think so too. It's something to do with the saltiness of the cheese. I think the sugar of Coke helps with that. Again, depends on the type of pizza. Don't get me wrong, a nice cold beer with pizza is good as well. But yes, I think so.
I'd go Coke, actually, comfortably, I think, for me.
FPL fanboy, who's the best long-term goalkeeper pick? Sanchez and Areola trouble.
Emi Martinez.
Why, for company value?
No, genuinely. This was, when I was looking at my wild card last week, that was the conclusion I come to, was that Emi Martinez was the best long-term goalkeeper choice. I'd looked, and so if this is how it applies to me, it will apply to a lot of you as well, except for those maybe who got Anthony Gordon. Up until game week 28, I wouldn't have had any conflicting issue with Emi Martinez. And what I mean by that is an attacker that I own playing against him at any point.
Javo.
So that's a long period, but I decided to make the saving on Pau Torres money-wise.
Javo, who do you think will be the next Premier League manager to be sacked, and will everyone survive until the 1st of January? Well, Wilder's only just been appointed, so you're looking at the bottom. I can't see Company going, can you? Or even Rob Edwards. I think they'll be all right.
Shout out to him as well, the way he handled himself.
It's got to be Saturday. Cooper, maybe.
You would think so, maybe.
Dyche isn't going.
No, definitely not.
Areola's not going now that they're on a good run.
Decided to take a different direction, but don't think they will at the moment. No, it's difficult to foresee. I mean, I suppose if United want to make a change with Ten Hag, but he's obviously certainly not going anywhere this week after yesterday. And I said it would be as much about the performance as the result. And he certainly couldn't look at the players yesterday and say that they weren't putting the effort in or anything like that. So it would only be if they wanted to change. And all the word is on that at the moment that will need the takeover to go through first anyway before anything would change at Manchester United. So, yeah, there's no... I know some people have been talking about Eddie Howe this way, and I just find that madness. We can all see the injury problems they've got and stuff. There's no way Brentford would change off Thomas Frank, same thing. No, difficult to foresee who would change at the moment.
Yeah, not before
Chelsea,
January,
if they had a really, really bad run of results, but I suppose a similar circumstance to Manchester United. I don't see it. The answer would be Cooper. I wouldn't be surprised if no one else went all season.
Wow.
Honestly,
definitely not all
Be
season.
shocked.
Definitely not all season, but it could be only a couple more maybe will go. There we go, James. That's a wrap for this Monday's episode of Planet FPL. We're back at you tomorrow, so wherever you're listening to the podcast, make sure you are subscribed. Hit the notification bell, the like button, whatever it may be, and we'll be back at you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Play it your way. Cue music, please, man child.